Welcome to Momentum Manifest. This is your go-to podcast for all topics around mindset mastery, wellness optimization, and overall well-being. I am your host, Caitlin LaFranc, and I am a functional health coach, giving you a cost-free alternative to learn all about your mind, your body, and everything in between. Welcome back. We are now on to our episode 2, which I'm so excited about. Last week was great. We're in the same environment. We're doing the same thing. It's going to be a shorter video today, but it's going to be powerful. What I want to be talking about today is something that has been really speaking to me for the past month or so. So I've taken on a full-time job. I've also got my coaching. I've got my podcast, and I've got a kitty, which maybe I'll introduce next podcast, maybe. And I've spoken to it about my mentor, and we were jamming on it, and he said, no, this is your next podcast episode because what you're speaking right now is a truth, and a truth that not many people are considering. And what I'm talking about is consistency. And I know we've heard a lot about consistency. We have other coaches in this space. We have other people who are praising consistency, which is so important. Don't get me wrong. But what I want to highlight today is, yes, it's important to be consistent in the doing, but it's also important to be consistent in rest. The balance between doing and rest, and a balance of everything to make sure you actually show up the way you want to, with your energy, with your presence and intentionality. So when we're talking about the consistency in doing, it's what tasks are we ticking off? Are we making sure we're being consistent with our gym or workout routine, with our studying, with our work, with our, there's so many things you can be consistent in. And that's what we think about when we are talking about consistency. It's being consistent with doing things. Now, on the other side of that coin is the consistency in rest. Actually sketching out time for yourself every single day to rest, not just doing constantly over and over again. Because what you'll find, yes, consistency compounds over time and you're going to create great results, whatever that is. But the same applies when you are consistent with rest, and that they go hand in hand. If you're not consistent in resting, being consistent in doing is going to be a whole lot harder for you. And it's something I've found personally in my life where I've just been trying to be consistent. And I know I'm going to really repeat on that word today. And by the end of it, I'm not going to want to hear the word consistent for a little while. But anyway, being consistent is something that I've done a lot. And being really hard on myself about, I need to be consistent so I can form a habit that I can, get results. But then what you find is that you'll often run out of energy. You crash by late afternoon. When you wake up, you're not alive with spirit. You're not alive with, being present because you've spent the past, week, 2 weeks, month, or even more just trying to be consistent and trying to get that external reward rather than rest, which is going to help your internal. It's going to help you refresh and recharge and recuperate so you can actually be consistent in the doing. What I find is in everything, there is a need of balance. You'll find with the yin and the yang in your life, it applies with absolutely everything, and this one in particular. So the yin and the yang. So the yang being actually the doing, and the yin is doing the resting. And that is what is going to be so integral throughout your whole journey, whether you're trying to create results, whether you're trying to go on a personal transformation. It's going to be that consistency in doing and in rest. In nature, we find a balance. The sun has to go down so that things can rest. There's a balance between winter and summer and all the different elements. There's a balance of, the soil that everything grows in, so it can give life to new things. There is a balance, and within us there's that balance as well. We have the masculine energy and we have the feminine energy, and you always want to have a balance of both. if you haven't heard about masculine and feminine energy, what it basically is masculine is the doing and feminine is the resting, or the more creative, being in the element. And when you find where there's a misbalance of any of these things that I've just mentioned, there is some sort of burnout, there is some sort of resistance, and things get overworked, and it can create chaos really in your life. So consistency in the doing, which all of us know what that looks like. We know that if you show up every single day to do something, that you will get results and that you will form a habit. But I really want to apply this notion to rest. Are we making sure that we're etching out time every single day to be quiet in our mind, to be quiet in our body, and to reflect, whether that's in the form of journaling, whether that's in the form of walking, whether that's in the form of whatever you want it to be, but something that's allowing everything to kind of lower the stress in yourself. Because if we're running on stress all the time, and stress doesn't always look like I'm overwhelmed, I can't handle this, but anything that elevates the mind or the body can be a potential stressor. So when you take away that stress, you take away your work, you take away your own business, you take away, all these other layers that your life has, and just allow yourself to be alone and be with yourself and do that internal work, that is going to be imperial for you being able to be consistent in the doing. I've found many times in my life where I've just tried to grind really hard. I've tried to hustle. I've tried to do everything I can to be consistent, but there's always a dip in my energy, a dip in my motivation. And that's because I'll rephrase, I was not prioritizing rest. So something now that I'm doing is backing off a little bit, giving myself the time. And I know sometimes that can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like potentially you're being lazy, but it is actually the opposite. It's a part of restoring yourself and restoring your mind, restoring your body, and making sure that, you can show up the best you can. Because if you're depleted with your energy, if your body is constantly under stress and pressure, it's always going to kind of feel like that, if you know what I mean. It's not going to get easier because you've added all of these layers into your life to be consistent at. But if you're consistent in your rest, that's going to help you really be able to be present in everything that you do, and help you be able to be the best self that you can, whether that's energy-wise, whether that's mentally, whether that's spiritually, whether that's emotionally, whether that's in a social context. Everybody needs their rest. We see it in nature all the time. Animals, they need their rest. Plants, they have their rest. Everything has a time of rest, and we can't ignore that. We've got to honor that we need that time, and not trying to, cut corners, stay up late so we can hustle a bit more, because if we get that done, we'll get this. It's also a balance of our internal and external. You can view external as the doing, everything we're seeing around us, what we're accomplishing. But when you rest, you're taking care of the inside, and that's going to help you create that balance. I feel like I'm just riffing off so much right now, and I am the queen of repetition, but I feel so deeply with this topic. I feel as though we are shifting in society into maybe honoring our rest, honoring our health. But there's also the other side of social media where it's just like grind every single day, lock in, don't quit, consistency, do this, do that, do everything. Where, yes, that's important and that has its place, but so does doing nothing. And when you do nothing and when you rest, you're going to reset your nervous system over time. You're going to help recalibrate it so that you're not in that fight or flight mode. Like, this is my time to be with myself. And it doesn't take away from anything else that you're doing in your life. And I can guarantee that 100%. I've felt the effects of what it's like to actually honor time to be alone with my mind and my body and, be gentle. And it really does leaps and bounds in your life. So I guess in saying that, I want to challenge anyone who is watching this video or listening to this on Spotify. Try to take some rest this week. Schedule out at least half an hour every day where you do nothing. And this doesn't mean going on your phone, because that actually creates another stress. Whether you feel it or not, it's creating stress. This is just being and doing pretty much anything away from our screens, away from that. Maybe it's, getting that writing done. Maybe it's doing a little bit of reading. Maybe it's going for a nice long walk. But just honoring yourself and being really present, it's going to help you so much. So this week, please, if you're going to do anything, honor your rest. Because you'll have the time to be consistent in your doing. There is plenty of time for that. I don't want to take away, I guess, the fact that people have things that they need to do in their lives. Of course, we all have responsibilities. But this should be a part of your responsibility for yourself. It's not for anyone else. And that is basically what I want to jam on today. I feel that it's so important this day and age to realize and to honor our body. Listen to it when it is tired. Listen to it when it needs things and it wants things. It will speak volumes. And if you listen just a little bit, it will give you back so much more. I feel like I'm about to go on another tangent about stress, because something else, okay, I am going to go into this tangent. Stress doesn't always feel like it's too much. I can't bear this. But anything, actually, I spoke about that just before, but anything that elevates you, anything that is an extra thing to do, whether that's gym, that can be a stress. Yes, maybe it is net positive, but at the end of the day, it's depleting energy. Same with doing all this work. You can be on your phone. Say you do social media as a job, or you do something that requires your phone. Yes, you can be hustling away, making, posts, etc. But it's still stress at the end of the day. You can love what you're doing and it still be a stress on your body. I just want to exaggerate that. So, again, consistency is not helpful just in the doing, but in the resting. Creating that balance for yourself. Just trust me. Just trust me. And you'll find a lot of reward from it. Whoa, okay. I feel like I barely even breathed through talking about that because I was so excited to talk about it. Anyway, that is what I want to speak on today. Next week it will be another topic, but I'm really liking this short form kind of video podcast episode thing I've got going on. But it was really lovely to talk about that. If you're interested, I have my Instagram for this podcast. It's momentum.manifest it's the Momentum Manifest. I just recently changed it. You can find me on Spotify, listen to me on there, or you can watch on YouTube. But anyway, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their week. I will see you next week. And yes, enjoy. Have a good time. Have a good night. See you next time. Bye.